All right. Welcome everyone to WorksheetLESS in K through Sensory Play. Thanks so much for joining us this afternoon. This is a repeat from Summer Summit, where we got to go through a lot of alternatives to printing books and cut and paste activities and all those kind of traditional worksheets that we used to gravitate towards. We're going to go through some alternatives about how we can make those a little bit more engaging in our classroom. So you know me, I am Kathleen. I am one half of the kindergarten team. Kaylee is the other half of the kindergarten team who is not here today, but did the session yesterday. We are going to do a few things today. Oh, actually, you know what? We're going to start in prayer because I think that slide was not included in this one because it was the summer summit. So I'll ask you to put your hands in the prayer position and we will pray in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Before we go away, we bow our heads and pray that God will keep us safe until another day. Amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Thank you so much. So for today's plan, we're not going to do an activating activity since we're just a few of us online. But we are going to talk about why we choose worksheets. We're going to talk about how to be more playful. We connected with the occupational therapist about those 4 areas that kids need to develop before picking up a pencil. I know you all have those children in your room where they're holding a pencil like this and their muscle tone is super, super weak. We're going to talk about why that's happening and what we can do to help support them before those actual writing skills. I'm going to show you some of those popular worksheets, and I want you to think about what some of those are right now, because when they come up, I'm going to ask you why teachers would choose an activity like that for their classroom. We're going to talk about whether or not we can actually ever use a worksheet. What is the answer? Yes, we can. This is not a no worksheet situation. This is how we can use less of them because, of course, we can always use some of them to leverage our teaching occasionally. But when you see some of those worksheets, you might see one that maybe you did when you were in kindergarten too. We're going to talk about why the teacher chose those. And those are going to be the times that I'm going to ask you to share your ideas about why you think they chose them. And then we're going to talk about some resources for your classroom. All right. We found this on Instagram by Kristen R.B. Peterson, and she is a very, very funny person on Instagram. And when she shared it, we just laughed so hard. Unfortunately, it came out after the summer summit, so we couldn't include it. But I mean, it's true. Haley Bieber is play-based learning in our lives. And we thought that this was just so, so great. So if you like this meme, give me a thumbs up in the chat. If you agree with this, should we be more Justin Bieber-like in our classrooms, or should we be more Haley? What do you think? I mean, I don't think I could pull that dress off, but she sure can. So type in the chat if you think that you agree with Kristen R.B. Peterson's meme type thing that she put here. We are going to talk about how this is building our professional capacity with sensory play, right? You're here, you're learning about this. So we're definitely nailing the TQS standards today. We're going to review and apply our educational research to improve our practice, right? We're going to talk about when we should be using those things, when we should maybe not. And we are going to talk about how all of these things are like low floor, high ceiling, inclusive learning environments for all, and talk about all of those learning needs that lots of different classes have. All right, so I'm going to either ask you to say with your microphone or type in the chat why there are some answers on the screen. Hint, hint, wink, wink. Why do we choose worksheets like this? We see tons of them. We see them on Pinterest. We see them on just a quick Google search, things like color sorting. Connect the pictures to the box to match their color. Connect the dots. Connect this. Cut that. What are some of the reasons why we choose to do these worksheets in our classrooms? I think for me personally, one of the big things, especially when I started teaching, was that parents are used to seeing this in school, right? They're used to their kiddos going to school and coming and bringing something home. And sometimes teachers feel really worried that if they're not sending something home very regularly, that they won't be able to connect with parents about what they're learning. That's right. Some of you are saying that they're already made by other teachers, and so it makes our planning easy, right? We know that we have very heavy planning in our jobs. So taking this definitely takes a load off of our planning. And it kind of brings up the question of, if we didn't make it, are we using it in the same way, right? Is there a way that we could find this color sorting example and make it different? Does it have to be a worksheet on an actual worksheet? How would that look? Um, I also think that lots of teachers are motivated by the fact that this is easy to add to a portfolio, right? So much easier than having to find a folder to share it in. You just take it, it's already done, the kids wrote on it, and boop, we can just slip it in and it is done. Absolutely. So it's easier to capture their learning compared to when they are engaging in a more hands-on activity. Definitely. So those are some of the worries. So we're going to talk about all those kinds of things today. We know that we are always pro play-based learning, and research shows countless times how great it is for their social emotional development, their language development, especially. We have a huge surge of EAL learners in our rooms. So we know that when they're playing, they are those active agents who reflect and coordinate on their thoughts rather than merely absorbing those of others. We want to move in a way from being worksheety to worksheet-less, from being more of those constructivist thinkers as opposed to those behaviorist thinkers. This little graphic on the screen with the two paint pots are showing that the teacher is trying to fill the learner up with knowledge, whereas we know that we want the kids to be constructing and understanding meaning about the world around them, and that it's not us that's filling them with that information. That kind of happens with worksheets a little bit. Is we hope that if we are talking to the children about being happy, for example, that they will take a worksheet and draw being happy, when really we know that through play and through puppets and through even exploring outside, that they're able to show their emotions that way without necessarily putting pen to paper, which doesn't respond to all the needs of all of our learners. So we want to move a little bit more towards that constructivist thinking, because again, it's less of a mindset of preparing them for grade one. Well, what are they in grade one? They're going to do so much writing. Absolutely, they are. Our job is to meet our children where they're at right now and give them what they need in kindergarten so that they can be successful on grade one, not trying to push them towards more of the grade one lifestyle while they are in kindergarten. A worksheet doesn't actually make children learn. It only gives the children the chance to show their learning in one way so they can move on with the rest of their day. This is kind of the way that we feel about worksheets, is that we are more trying to tick off that box as opposed to actually giving the children the experience and the chance to make mistakes and collaborate, because those worksheets are really just those one-on-one things. Can we use those worksheets in different ways to, like, for example, set up a center? This one is a nice egg counting one for Easter. You can see that the teacher has put a core board there for communication purposes. Like, who knows? Maybe these numbers were actually a worksheet that just got cut up and enlarged on the photocopier. That could be a situation as well. Those are ways that we can use those worksheets to kind of incorporate them into a more play-based style in our classrooms without actually saying no to all of them. We're going to talk about 4 different areas today that children need to develop before those really fine motor paper to pencil tasks get developed. And these are the 4 areas that you're going to see are lacking the most in children before those writing skills. So if you're going to take any notes about this, these are the 4 areas that you want to write down. The first is shoulder stability. Okay. These activities, or these photos here, show some activities that really promote that shoulder stability, that are really easy to incorporate into your classroom. The top left one is from Kaylee's classroom. I'm not sure if it was 100 Voices or kindergarten, but she draped a sheet from the ceiling, and the kids actually got to use watercolors and paint up above their heads. This is so good for building those upper body muscles so that they are able to, in turn, be better writers, be able to sit at a chair, doing things above the head, or As you can see, lots of easel activities and the other 3 photos here really build that shoulder stability. The second photo here is actually just bingo dabbers on a big chart paper, and the children were just asked to connect the dots in any way that they could. By getting them to do it standing, we are again looking at that shoulder stability. And you could even replace it with stickers. You could get the kids to peel the stickers and put them on. You could get them to copy letters that's on the other side of the easel. You could just get them to do simple drawings. And then you can see at this last photo over here, they're drawing underneath the tables and the desks, and it is stuck up to the top. And, they're still drawing, but they're doing it in a completely different way. And that is just bringing lots of joy to their lives as well. So the first area, shoulder stability. The second area is core strength. In my classroom, when I had the loft, I would always make a rule that the kids had to either go on their knees or sit on their bum in order to do activities. And this kind of acts like an easel again, so that they can really build that core strength. So here I've taped up some items on the inside of the loft for them to make patterns and color. And the rule is that you had to do it from your knees or from your bum. And that way they are really building that core strength and stability. Stepping stones, river rocks are a super fun thing to set out for a gross motor center as well. Getting them to roll a dice and jump from one color to another, seeing how many they can jump on, if they can jump with 2 feet or 1 foot. Again, these are things that they need to develop and be able to do well before they're able to really sit and do any of those tasks that we ask them to do at the table. And I think we've seen this one a few times, since it really incorporates well into our science program about being able to move like animals, and talk about directionality, is just being able to do that big body work in the gym. That's another really great way to build core strength. The third area is hand strength. So these are activities that involve, still again, not holding a pencil, but things that are going to develop their muscles in their hands. Here you can see a child using some real tools. Using hole punchers is fantastic. The photo in the middle is some nice thick paint chips from Home Depot. They're free. We take a whole bunch at a time. I've never had anybody ask me what I'm doing with them. They just think that I'm doing some extensive house renovations. And then a number is written at the top, and the kids have to punch that many holes. You can see there's a visual over there to support them to see how many holes they need to punch. And there's even a little happy face in the top left-hand corner, handwriting without tears style, so that they know the directionality of the number. Ripping paper is also one that's very surprising to everybody. If you have not done a ripping paper station with your children, that is a great one that incorporates hand strength, upper body strength, balance, and everything. Teach them to put their forefingers together, pull 2 to the front and 2 to the back, and the joy on their face when they get to rip paper is out of control. You're never allowed to do it any other time, so when they're allowed to do it now, they just absolutely love it. The last area is fine motor skills. Now, kindergarten teachers love to say, oh, fine motor, kind of every 2 seconds, like it's our jam, right? It's pretty much the easiest one to incorporate into all of our things, and all of our activities and the things that we do. So it doesn't have to be too much of a focus when you're planning, but you do want to keep those things in mind, right? Peeling Wiki sticks or stickers off of the loft is a great activity for them to do. Also using lots of tweezers and lots of tongs. And gee, I seem to have some tweezers and some tongs here that might be making their way to some classrooms soon. You never know. And the last picture here is actually just pool noodles cut up, and then they have to use those tongs to transfer some pom-poms into the center. You could incorporate more math into this by having them pull some magnetic numbers. They could roll a die, all those kinds of things. These are not only good for just centers, they're good for you to sit and do with the children. There is nothing wrong with you planning this activity with these pool noodles and sitting with small groups and doing it with them. It's perfect. Lots of coaching as to how to hold them, because you know that you're going to get somebody that holds it just like this, like a fist. So the 4 areas: shoulder stability, core strength, hand strength, and fine motor. All of those need to be developed. All right, now I'm going to get you guys to chat with me or type in the chat very fast so that it's not as awkward when I'm sitting here in silence. Here we go. Our first worksheet. Why would a teacher choose this trace, cut, and paste worksheet? You see it, you love it, you gotta have it. This is great. The kids are going to be a master at the letter A by the time they're done. Why? Why are we printing this off? Should we print this off? Can we print this off? Can we use it in a different way? Why are we choosing this one? Practicing scissor skills and gluing skills. Yep, absolutely. They need to be able to open and close those scissors, and they need to be able to open and close that glue and use it, right? Yeah, they need to be able to recognize that letter A, recognize those fine motor skills. Um, do either of you have any ideas about how you would use this worksheet without just asking them to write their name, cut, paste, and trace? Can you find any links to any of the other areas that we saw from any of the other centers? If we were to put this at the top of the loft with those pool noodles, could you see yourself cutting up these pictures from the bottom, placing them around the loft, and then while you're sitting with the small group, having the kids use the tweezers and put the pom-pom on either a picture that starts with A or for one color or another color pom-pom for things that don't start with A? That's one of the ways that I would do it. Maybe you could find the B sheet of this one, and then you would be working on the difference between A and B, and all of the red pom-poms go on things that start with the letter A. All of the blue pom-poms go on things that start with the letter B. And then we're just working on kind of one skill at a time. Any other ideas about how we could use this besides just tracing, cutting, and pasting? Oh, yes, making it a sensory bin. Great, great suggestion. Absolutely. So you could even photocopy this maybe 3 or 4 times and they could match all of the ones together. Putting in some tubs into the sensory bin so that they could sort them. Um, Incorporating the letter A would be a little bit more difficult, but you would be able to, again, use all of these A's and see if maybe they could sort the uppercase and the lowercase A's. That's a great, great idea. Awesome. You guys are getting it. Here are some other different ways that we can be doing the exact same thing as far as cutting, pasting, letter identification, scissor practice, gluing practice that isn't the worksheet. All of those skills that we identified in that worksheet can be found in these 4 activities here. So practicing cutting in a sensory bin, they don't have to cut and glue. They could just cut if they wanted to. You already mentioned a sensory bin. The second photo here is exactly that, sorting between P and M. The third photo here, they're working on those fine motor skills by tracing lines with small objects. And then also the last photo, they are ripping that paper, they are gluing that paper, they are using a pencil in order to draw a pre-printing shape, which they have to be able to know how to do before they even start printing letters anyways. So we hope that you're seeing the connection between the importance of doing these activities in your kindergarten classroom in lieu of a traditional worksheet like that, as it builds those skills. Children can revisit these. You can do them in so many different ways, and you're building the exact same skills that you all identified that you did in the worksheet that we just saw with the tracing, cutting, and pasting. All right, here's the next one. Number 2 of 4. I think we have 4 worksheets to show you today. Oh, this beautiful March calendar. Type in the chat, why do we use calendar papers like this? I mean, it's good to use a paper calendar like this if that's what you choose. This one is photocopied into a little coiled book. Everybody's got one that goes from September all the way to June. Why would we use this? Yes, to order our numbers, right? Children have to be able to recite numbers 1 to 10, starting forward, starting backwards, starting at any given number, right? And that's what a calendar allows us to do. Let's take a look at some alternatives though. The math team has done a really great job about gathering some resources on a linear calendar and making it that whole group, whole class experience. So having children write down numbers on a calendar would be the exact same thing as having them write them on sticky notes, write them on the wall, write them anywhere. It doesn't have to just be on a calendar book. There's a big misconception about the learning outcome in math for kindergarten as well, for interpreting time as a sequence of events. They do not need to be identifying days of the week in order to interpret time as a sequence of events. We want them to be able to tell us events that happened before, after, during, as part of their day, or during the month if they can as well. The middle photo you can see is a class linear calendar, and each time that a day has gone by, they have stricken it in green. They have provided some photos above the month of things that they did. You can see some stickers on the calendar that identify when there's people's birthday, when they don't have school is in yellow. And this is really that meaningful aspect of time as opposed to getting 25 children to do the number 21 in a calendar book, which just is so incredibly painful sometimes. Not everybody's motor skills are ready for that. The children don't have the concept of exactly which one comes next. So the calendar is just not as developmentally appropriate as we hope that it would be. Um, the final picture on the right-hand side is another linear calendar in another kindergarten classroom, and it's empty picture frames. The days that there are no school are identified by a little sticky that says no school. They put a photo in there of those that have birthdays, and there's a little tiny number at the bottom right-hand corner. This is exploring that calendar aspect in a linear way that's meaningful for the kids, but they don't actually have to be writing anything. Third worksheet. Counting apples. I did this one. Why would we be choosing this activity? Count the apples on the trees, cut out the number that matches it, and glue it in the box. This could be a same answer from a previous worksheet. It could be a different answer. My child has come home with these. He is in grade 1 this year. Um, why are we choosing activities like this to explore math? That's right. Number two quantity, practice writing, practice matching the numbers. Do you have some ideas about what we could be doing instead? We sure do. So for that investigating quantity to 10, we would be doing lots of dice games incorporated with those fine motor skills. The top photo you can see is wooden letters, sorry, wooden numbers, goodness, that are on the light table. And the children were provided with some gems and some mirrors, and they were relating the quantity that way. This is doing the exact same thing as that worksheet in a playful way, in a way that allows access to more children to be able to be successful with this. The only difference is, yes, did I have to take a picture of them doing it? That's what I'm going to slip into the portfolio. That's what I'm going to save. That's what I'm going to comment on, as opposed to just having that photocopied sheet. You can see here that there's a race to the finish line. You can roll the dice and bead on the antler for each number that you get. Computational thinking, this is a fun one to do around Christmas with those Christmas lights. So you roll the dice and then you roll a color and then you have to string it onto the Christmas lights by dabbing. So for example, if you roll a 1, you're going to find the purple and you're going to dab that one once on the line. If you roll a 4, that means that it's going to be red and you're going to dab 4 separate lights onto that string of lights. How many spiders can you catapult? Catapults are kind of fun to make if you just use like those big tongue depressors or big popsicle sticks, and then the kids can pew, launch things into little bowls. Such a fun way to count as opposed to just counting things like the apples on the tree. And then again, after they've launched them, maybe you're going to get them to remove them. Putting string or tape across your sensory bin or across little bowls or across shallow cookie sheets. Oh, and I think maybe what's over there? Maybe some cookie sheets to go home? Hmm. Resources being sent to schools? Maybe. So that kids could be taking their tweezers and plucking little items from the shallow bowls, and then they could be counting that way. Tower up is another really easy one. Use some whiteboards. You could even use a piece of paper, write a number, and the kids have to place that many blocks in that height of a tower. Those are all areas where we're still exploring number correspondence. They're still being able to investigate quantity to 10. They are representing those quantities. They are exploring numbers. They're doing all the same things that they did on that worksheet, but in a playful way here. All right, I think this is the last one. The name worksheet. Dun, dun, dun. I trace my name, I build my name, I print my name. Why are we choosing this activity in the classroom? I did one of these in kindergarten, and we got to take a string and we dipped it into a huge vat of white glue, and then we had to make each letter on the big paper. Whew, it was a core memory because I still remember it today, but it was so sticky and fun. Yep, they're going to have to be able to recognize their name, right? And they all like to write it in uppercase, and then we try to do these in lowercase. So let's see if there's some other things that we can do for them to be able to recognize their name. Play-Doh names. So fun. Again, they're having that sensory experience as opposed to just that paper pencil task. We're teaching them to roll into snakes, roll into balls, roll into tiny balls to make those I and those J's. Um, Pinching, so good for their motor skills, so good for that shoulder stability and that balance as well. It takes a lot of muscles to be able to roll that Play-Doh. Um, Tracing names using loose parts. This brings a little bit of creativity to the process too. They're really looking at those letters. Does this letter have straight lines? Does it have curved lines? How many lines does it have? What could I use for this? Is there a hole in this letter? All of those things are perfect to explore. And if you were to leave this out as a center, they'd be able to identify other people's names as well. And they're also recognizing those letters with speed and accuracy, right? They're going to go to their name first. That's what they want to see. Me. And they're going to be able to tell you some of those letters probably. And if not, they will with practice. Using some leaky sticks. Oh, I think I have some leaky sticks over here too to send to some schools. Kids love these. They are such a tactile experience. They stick to vertical surfaces, they stick to horizontal surfaces. You can do words, letters, pictures. You can do them on mats. You really don't need too much to be exploring letters, the connections between letters and sounds with this resource. Shaving cream. Put an emoji in the chat if you would do this or not. Give me a thumbs up, a thumbs down, give me a crying laughing emoji, give me a heart, give me anything, give me a bat to say, Kathleen, you're crazy. I would never do this. Tell me in an emoji whether or not you would try the shaving cream activity with your students. That's right. We got a hands up. Woo woo. They love it. They cannot believe when you pull out that shaving cream that they're actually going to be able to do this. That's right, heart eyes. I think I would choose that one too, Alexi. They love it. It smells good. It feels fun. Your non-sensory seeking children are going to be like, this is wild. I don't know if I want to participate. Maybe they can just get one little pinky in there. Um, so much more fun than just tracing on a paper, right? You can get different scents, but honestly, your classroom just smells like men's cologne for the entire day. That's what the dollar store always has in stock. So it's always like minty fresh or evergreen or something, but they just love it. If you sit there in a small group and you pull some cards and they identify what letter that is and they get to trace it into the shaving cream, you can still work on directionality going from top to bottom and from left to right. They get to erase it by just going like this in it, and it just feels so, so fun. And then after the small group is done, all you need to do is take a paper towel or a wet, damp cloth and wipe it away, and you start again with the next group. One or two cans will get you very, very far. If you have two huge classes, you probably need two or three, but really it's super, super fun. And this was just one of my all-time favorite activities. Um, is there other ways that you could use the shaving cream? Do you have to do letters with the shaving cream? Put some ideas in the chat. There's a couple different things that you can do with the shaving cream. They could trace letters. They could trace what else? I'm thinking of a few things. There's something that we talked about that they have to be able to do before letters, shapes. You got it, Alexi. So for those children that are not recognizing any letters, they don't have any of that muscle tone, guaranteed they're going to have to work on doing a circle, a square, an X, and a triangle in this, and they will have so much fun. Great activity to leave for your EA as well. Okay. This is kind of us walking around with our phones in our classrooms now, right? If we don't have a worksheet to prove their learning, then what are we doing? We are taking pictures. We are pulling our phones out at every second and capturing that learning without faces, maybe just from the backs of heads or just hands. And we're either capturing it for the whole group or we're capturing it individually. All right. Um, And we're saving that either on OneDrive, we're saving it on our Google Drive, we're saving it in a folder so that we can go and capture that evidence and have it somewhere. That's kind of a whole other session, how we're going to capture that learning. But just to say that from all of these hands-on experiences, we need to be taking photos of them in order to show families, show children what they've been learning, etc. So again, we talked about, can we ever use a worksheet? Absolutely, we can. These are all photos from Kaylee and mine's classrooms about how we have actually used worksheets in a playful way for them to be learning all these variety of curricular outcomes. The top photo on the right is from the PATHS program. There is a sheet in the PATHS book where they can photocopy, you can photocopy, and they can sequence the events of how to do the turtle, which is a problem-solving sequence of events. That's completely appropriate to be able to use that worksheet in that way. You're asking them what their story is about. You're asking them the steps. Maybe you're asking them to be dramatic about it and recreate it in front of the class. It's not the only thing that we're asking them to do in order to achieve that outcome. It's supporting it. What are a few other ones here? Scavenger hunts. The bottom left one photo is a Valentine's Day scavenger hunt, which is super fun. The second photo is them being able to add facial features to monsters to make different emotions. So they had to make a happy one, a sad one, a scared one, an alarmed one, all those different kinds of things. This third photo is from Kaylee's classroom, where obviously she's photocopied a sheet where they have to go and find those classroom items and to explore non-standard units of measurement and write down their answers. Completely appropriate to use a worksheet in that regard. There's also a nature hunt. You need to be able to bring something out so that they can record their thinking if you don't have a class of iPads or you don't have a class of iPhones or you're not bringing a Chromebook out. Totally appropriate to be using that. But the point is that they are outside, they are moving, they are shaking. Everybody had the directions before they went out. And there's a few other ideas on this screen too. So we really hope that these ideas helped encapsulate the fact that play, sensory, occupational therapy goals, and curriculum can all play and intertwine together. The last few slides here have some resources that you can click on. They are all, most of them made by Edmonton Catholic Schools, either their physical therapy team, their occupational therapy team, in order to give parents and you some more information about shoulder stability, that hand strength that we were talking about, and then also a few other good websites that you can access for some more information. I am going to say goodbye, and we are going to ask you to send us photos of anything that has inspired you in this presentation to be able to recreate in your classroom. And we hope that you have a better understanding of all of those tasks that need to be accomplished before we get our children sitting in those chairs and writing.